This young girl is brutally murdered, and Hye-in becomes the sole witness. Here, she will engage in an intense battle against wealth and power. This is the most luxurious high school in Korea, where most students come from extremely wealthy families. They are chauffeured in luxury cars daily, and designer clothing is a given. On the first day of school, a girl shows off her new designer bag. Not only that, but to enjoy a quiet meal, she even books an entire restaurant. Meanwhile, a boy takes extravagance to another level. He casually buys a motorcycle worth 58 million won. The shop owner assumes he didn't see the price and asks if he knows how much it costs. 58 million won, the boy replies nonchalantly. The sales staff are left speechless. The owner, surprised, asks, "Are kids really this rich nowadays?" The boy smirks, pulls out a gold card from his bag, and says, "My mom has plenty of money." In contrast, another girl feels guilty for accepting a 280,000 won outfit. "That's not enough," the boy says, then casually tosses the expensive clothing into the trash. Here, money and power mean having everything. The girl, named Kdrama, is the daughter of the chairman of the group. After repeatedly bullying weaker students, she is reported and ordered by the principal to write a reflection. Just then, the door bursts open, and several students rush in. A classmate falsely claims to be the real mastermind behind the bullying. Jenna, full of satisfaction, pretends to be upset and scolds the principal for wrongfully accusing an innocent person. Noticing the principal using a laptop from her family's brand, she mocks him again. Growing bolder, Jenna declares that if this school is truly for elites, then she is its queen. Although the issue seems resolved, she has no intention of letting the whistleblower go. With a single remark, she pressures a classmate into jumping into the water. A boy, unwilling to tolerate this, confronts her. Jenna smirks coldly. She continues to act however she pleases. In class, she openly sleeps on her desk. The new teacher, unaware of the situation, asks the students to wake her up. Yet, not a single student dares to move. "I see," the teacher mutters, slamming a book onto the desk. Then, walking up to Jenna, he finds her completely unfazed. She responds fluently in English, leaving the teacher speechless, before falling back asleep, leaving the teacher standing there. Not long after, a transfer student arrived at the school. The girl refused to accept her lower status and aspired to climb the social ladder. In pursuit of a 10 million won monthly salary, she took a tutoring job at a wealthy household. However, she was met with harsh scrutiny from the lady of the house, whose every word and gesture were laced with disdain for her poverty. Driven by the allure of money, she swallowed her pride and endured the humiliation. But she soon realized that the wealthy family's interest was never in education. She couldn't understand why these rich kids bought so many identical designer bags. Staring in disbelief, she asked, "What do you mean?" One was just a brand, another was simply an accessory. The rich girl carefully examined the bag and found it identical in every way. When she checked the price, she was utterly shocked. 3 million won for a single bag. Meanwhile, the wealthy girl, Hye-in, found it perfectly normal, even commenting that this limited edition piece was just a fraction of her collection. The stark reality of wealth hit hard. The tutor had once lost a life-changing opportunity to study abroad because she couldn't afford a 3 million won deposit. Yet here, Hye-in could casually throw away that same amount on a bag. Filled with resentment, she insisted that buying luxury goods was wasteful and that students didn't need such expensive bags. Without hesitation, Hye-in handed the bag to her. The girl stared at it for a long time before finally reaching out, only for Hye-in to pull it back with a knowing smirk. "I was just testing you," she said. Then she added, "My mom once told me that Koreans have a habit. When they can't have something, they pretend they don't want it and downplay its value. Especially people like you, who were born into poverty." With that, Hye-in tossed the bag aside and headed to the restroom. The girl stood there, staring at the bag, unable to shake the words from her mind. To prove herself right, she took a picture of it and posted it on social media, with a caption, "Can someone tell me what's so special about this bag?" The next day, she arrived at school as usual, but something felt off. Her classmates greeted her warmly, but their gazes held a strange look. It wasn't until she returned to the classroom that she realized what had happened. Her classmates had already discovered that she couldn't afford the 3 million won deposit, and now they were openly mocking her for it. Just as she stood there, speechless, a girl suddenly burst in, accusing her of pretending to be poor despite being rich. Confused, she paused for a moment before realizing something was wrong. Rushing to the restroom, she grabbed her phone and opened her social media. Her post about the designer bag had blown up, flooded with comments. The next second, she was dragged out by her classmates, who surrounded her, eager to know the truth. Was she really a wealthy heiress? For the first time, she felt what it was like to be admired. So she made a choice. Her first real lie. "Yes," she said, and just like that, everything changed. She didn't realize it at the time, but this one lie would alter her life forever. From that moment on, she fully embraced her fake identity. She started frequenting the homes of the rich, posing as one of them. One day, she'd post a photo in designer clothes. The next, she'd capture herself in an opulent living room. And even the classmates who once looked down on her began treating her differently. But the illusion couldn't last forever. One day, as usual, she arrived early at a wealthy family's home. While exploring, she spotted a wardrobe filled with high-end, custom-made outfits. One piece, in particular, caught her eye. A tailored school uniform from International High School. Her eyes lit up. She knew the uniform's worth. Unable to resist, she waited for the housekeeper to be distracted, then quickly grabbed the outfit and sneaked upstairs. Slipping into the uniform, she took a deep breath, adjusted her posture, and admired her reflection in the mirror. "Wow," she whispered. The difference was instant. She pulled out her phone and started snapping pictures, eager to flaunt her new look online. A voice echoed from downstairs. Hae-in was home. Panic surged through her. Hae-in wasn't supposed to be back this early. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the buttons, desperately trying to remove the tight-fitting dress. The fabric wouldn't budge. Footsteps grew louder. Hae-in was already outside the door. Realizing she had no other choice, she quickly hid. But in her panic, she forgot one crucial detail. Her phone. Hae-in picked it up, and with just one glance at the screen, saw everything. In an instant, the truth was exposed. Her entire act of pretending to be a rich girl was now in Hae-in's hands. In an instant, the truth was exposed. Hae-in stood frozen. The only thing she could do now was beg. She pleaded with Na to keep her secret. Na smirked, standing up slowly. Keeping the secret was possible, but it would come at a price. From that moment on, Hae-in became Na's personal servant. Even at her part-time job at the supermarket, she had to take care of Na's errands. If Na went shopping, Hae-in carried her bags. If Na wanted pictures taken, Hae-in knelt on the ground, angling the camera just right. No matter how late it was, she never forgot to bring Na her favorite coffee after school. But nothing was ever enough. Na only grew more demanding. Soon, she had Hae-in doing not just her homework, but her friends' assignments too. Hae-in endured it all, telling herself it would end once her tutoring job was over. She was wrong. On the day of the college entrance exam, Hae-in's phone rang. It was Na, panicked, claiming she had forgotten an important speech for an interview. She begged Hae-in to help. Hae-in hesitated. There were only 30 minutes left before the exam started. But then, Na's voice turned cold. If she didn't help, she would kill herself and make sure to expose everything about Hae-in's lies before she did. Hae-in hung up and ran to Na's house, grabbing the speech and rushing to Cheongdam High. What she didn't know was that Na had made a bet with her friends. She was so sure that Hae-in would come running the moment she called. One of Na's friends hesitated, asking if it was too much to pull Hae-in away from her college exam. But Na just laughed it off. Hae-in arrived, breathless, and handed over the speech. Just as she turned to leave, Na smirked, crumpled the paper, and tossed it straight into the trash. Hyen's chest tightened. She had just sacrificed everything for this girl. She rushed back to her school, but it was too late. She had missed her entrance exam. Her future gone. She locked herself in the bathroom, sobbing. That was when another girl approached her, a student from Cheongdam High. In her despair, Hyen barely noticed her at first, until she caught sight of the message written on the girl's uniform. Something inside her snapped. Tearing up the note, she stormed into the auditorium, carrying a bucket of water. Without hesitation, she dumped it over Na's head, soaking her completely. She glared at Na, her voice shaking with fury. "How dare you talk about reputation when you don't even have basic decency?" Na's entire carefully planned entrance interview was ruined. When her mother found out what Hyen had done to her daughter, she was furious. She lashed out at Hyen, vowing to destroy her completely. Her anger was so intense that it attracted the attention of the chairman of Cheongdam High School. The chairman remained firm. Such a disgraceful incident had no place in their prestigious institution. He ordered Na's mother to take her daughter away. Na would no longer be admitted to the school. Her mother, seeing her daughter's devastation, she pleaded with the chairman, even offering a generous financial gift as compensation. But at a place like Cheongdam, where wealth was abundant, money was meaningless. Na's dream was crushed. As soon as Hyen returned to her own school, she was summoned to the office. The director sternly reprimanded her and handed down a suspension. But the worst was yet to come. News of her masquerading as a rich girl spread like wildfire. Everyone in school despised her. Some even went as far as throwing trash at her. She couldn't take it anymore. She went straight to the chairman of Cheongdam High, begging him to reconsider Hyen's admission. If Hyen couldn't get into the school, she would make Hyerin's life even more miserable. But Cheongdam High wasn't a charity. Without wealth or status, no amount of begging would change the decision. That night, however, everything took a shocking turn. The chairman received a phone call from his assistant. A student had fallen from a building on campus. At first, he didn't think much of it. A low-income student's death was unfortunate, but easily explained away as suicide due to academic pressure. But then his assistant said something that made his blood run cold. There was a witness, and that witness was Hyerin. For the first time, the chairman hesitated. He needed to silence her. The next day, something unbelievable happened. Hyen's mother, who had sworn to ruin Hyerin, suddenly became strangely kind. And when Hyerin returned to school, she received shocking news. She had been forcefully admitted into Cheongdam High. She was confused. It wasn't until she got home and checked her phone that she saw countless missed calls. Among them was an unread message from the chairman. Had he been the one behind all this? Meanwhile, in the school's lounge, a group of wealthy students were scrolling through Hyerin's social media account. They saw her wearing Cheongdam's exclusive school uniform. As they scrolled further through her posts, they quickly realized the truth. She wasn't a real heiress. She was a fraud. Hyerin's first day at Cheongdam High had already spiraled out of control. On social media, there was nothing left. It turned out that Hyerin had deleted all his posts just in time. The next day, the mayor's assistant delivered a new school uniform to Hyerin. She had been admitted under special circumstances. Hyerin smiled mysteriously. Now that she was a student at Cheongdam, she couldn't let herself fall behind. Her vanity flared up again when she saw a pair of shoes in a store window that she had secretly taken a photo of earlier. No matter what, she had to buy them this time. Hyerin carefully cradled the shoes in his arms, but the moment she stepped out of the store, regret hit her. She would have to work 158 hours to afford them. Just as she was lost in thought, a girl wearing a low-brimmed hat bumped into her. She quickly picked up her shoelaces, handed them back, and hurried off without even apologizing. When Hyerin opened the shoebox to try on her new shoes, she found a small note inside. Thinking back to what had just happened in the mall, she remembered the girl's eerie smile before she left. Realization struck Hyerin, and she rushed back to the mall. But after searching the entire floor, she couldn't find the girl anywhere. As she stood there in confusion, the girl was silently watching her from the upper floor. Unable to find her, Hye-rin dejectedly prepared to go home, until she suddenly remembered that her new shoes were still in the restroom. She hurried back, only to find them missing. Panicking, she searched everywhere. Just then, someone walked out of the restroom wearing her shoes. It was Kdrama. Without hesitation, Hye-rin grabbed Kdrama, accusing her of stealing them. Kdrama glanced at the name tag on Hye-rin's chest and asked, "Do you even know who I am?" Then she smirked. "I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you go." Hye-rin, furious, yanked at Kdrama's hair and started yelling at her as they fought over the shoes. The next morning, as Hye-rin stepped into the classroom, a group of boys immediately surrounded her. Their eyes were cold. One of them pulled out his phone, and before she could react, their leader gave a signal. They all closed in on her. Sensing the danger, Hye-rin turned and ran. She had expected to struggle at Cheongdam, but she hadn't anticipated outright bullying. Furious, she stormed into the chairman's office, demanding to know if he had expected this to happen. The chairman leaned back in his chair. "You should be grateful," he said. "Do you know how much the tuition here costs? 100 million, won a year. If it weren't for me, you'd never even set foot in a place like this." His tone was clear. If she didn't like it, she was free to leave. But Hye-rin had fought too hard to get here. With that, he dismissed her. Hye-rin had no choice. Just as she turned to leave, she spotted a familiar figure in the doorway, Kdrama. So they would be seeing a lot more of each other. After giving Kdrama a harsh lesson, Hye-rin forcefully yanked off her shoes, leaving Kdrama injured and barefoot as she stumbled home. Hye-rin was convinced that everything that had happened to her that day was Kdrama's doing, but Kdrama only laughed mockingly. "Someone like you doesn't even deserve these," she sneered. Before Hye-rin could react, a crowd of students flooded out from the school building, quickly surrounding her. It was only then that she realized just how terrifying Kdrama truly was. Panic surged through her as she tried to escape, but Kdrama grabbed her, shoving her to the ground. Hye-rin, who had always despised school violence, fought back with all her strength, managing to push Kdrama away and make a run for it. Desperate to escape her pursuers, she slipped into an empty art room. Inside, a quiet girl was painting. Without a word, she handed Hye-rin a pair of shoes. Hye-rin felt like she had seen this girl somewhere before, but she couldn't quite remember where. As soon as Hye-rin left, the girl's lips curled into a strange smile. But Hye-rin's brief moment of relief was short-lived. The group chasing her had already blocked her exit. With no other choice, she pulled out her phone and started recording. "If you keep this up, I'll post this online," she threatened. But instead of being intimidated, the students burst into laughter. "You're so naive," one of them scoffed. "Punishments like that are only for poor people who have no other choice in life." Realizing she had no way out, Hye-rin made a reckless decision. She leaped over the railing, but just as she was about to hit the ground, someone caught her. It was So-mang, the prestigious heir everyone admired. The entire crowd stood in shock. So-mang carried Hye-rin to the rooftop and gently wiped the dust off her face. As she looked at him, carefully tending to her injuries, her heart fluttered. Hye-rin mistakenly believed that So-mang had feelings for her. If she could marry into his family, wouldn't she be able to escape this struggle and enter high society instantly? Just as she was about to confess her willingness, So-mang's expression darkened as he asked coldly, "Who killed Hye-rin? You were the only one at the scene that night." It turned out that the only reason So-mang had gotten close to Hye-rin was to uncover the truth about that night. Realizing this, Hye-rin immediately tried to leave, but So-mang grabbed her, stopping her in her tracks. Hye-rin decides to make a shocking deal with him. The next day, at the school's grand entrance, a luxury car came to a stop right in the middle of the gate. The door swung open, and to everyone's shock, the one stepping out wasn't some wealthy elite. It was Hye-rin, the so-called nobody. Murmurs erupted among the students, but the more they whispered, the more pleased Hye-rin became. making Jenna seethe with rage. Hyerin carried herself with a newfound confidence. She walked with a different energy. Curious about their relationship, the other girls couldn't resist asking if she and So-mang were dating. None of them believed So-mang would go for someone like her. But to their shock, Hyerin shamelessly declared in front of everyone, "Of course, So-mang is my boyfriend." The girls' expressions shifted instantly. Realizing Hyerin now held social currency, they quickly changed their stance and eagerly tried to befriend her. Hyerin smirked, unimpressed. But after thinking it over, she decided having friends was better than being alone, so she agreed to let the three girls into her circle. The trio wasted no time prying for details, pressing Hyerin to share how she had won over someone like So-mang. They even invited her to a weekend party, hoping to learn her secret. Initially, Hyerin had no intention of attending, but after their relentless persuasion, she reluctantly agreed to consider it. Later that night, she told her best friend about the invitation, explaining that she didn't want to go just to be mocked. Her friend, however, insisted, "If you don't go, you'll never have another chance like this." Hyerin hesitated. She wanted to go, but she didn't even own a decent dress. Her friend suddenly had an idea. They reached out to Hae-in, who surprisingly agreed to lend her one, but only on the condition that Hyerin spill all the juicy party details afterward. Hyerin quickly agreed and even offered to pay a rental fee, but Hae-in waved it off, simply asking for the dress to be returned in perfect condition. Meanwhile, determined to uncover the truth about Hyerin's death, So-mang reluctantly played along with Hyerin's act, publicly acknowledging her as his girlfriend. When the party day arrived, Hyerin made a stunning entrance in a white dress. As she admired her surroundings, a waiter approached and offered her a glass of red wine. This was the life she had always dreamed of. Just as she lifted the glass, ready to take a sip, the three scheming girls intentionally bumped into her. But Hyerin was quick, her reflexes sharp. She caught the glass before it could spill. The trio, however, only smirked, continuing their taunts. Suddenly, a hand reached out toward her. Hyerin looked up, only to realize she didn't recognize the person in front of her. The girl, however, smiled knowingly. "I know you're So-mang's girlfriend," she said. She hesitated for a moment before finally accepting the girl's help. But just as she reached out, the girl shoved her to the ground. In an instant, red wine spilled all over her, staining the pristine white dress she had borrowed. The expensive fabric was ruined. Jaina approached Hyerin slowly, their eyes locking in a moment thick with tension. Without hesitation, Jaina took another bottle of wine and poured it over Hyerin. "This is what happens when people like you forget where they belong," Jaina sneered. Hyerin sat there, frozen. "Are you crazy?" she screamed, but her outrage was met with nothing but laughter. "You're too naive," a voice sneered. It was Minji, one of Gina's close friends. That was when Hyerin noticed something. Jaina's security detail wasn't just any ordinary school guards. Their name tags bore the insignia of Jaina's family corporation. And at that moment, Hyerin finally understood. In front of everyone, she was escorted out. But Jaina's hostility toward Hyerin wasn't just about a personal grudge. She despised people who didn't know their place. Later that night, Jaina sat alone, scrolling through news articles on her phone. Tears welled up in her eyes. That evening, when she returned home, she was greeted by a scene that filled her with anger. Her mother was slumped over the table, completely drunk. Jaina's hands clenched into fists. "Why aren't you listening to the doctor?" she demanded. "You know you can't drink while you're being treated for depression." But nothing could have prepared her for what her mother said next. Jaina's mother forced a smile, despite the pain in her heart. Over and over, she reassured her daughter that she was fine. But the truth was far from it. She had sacrificed everything for her husband, supporting him as he climbed to his current status. Yet, in the end, he betrayed her. Their marriage had long been nothing but an empty shell. Exhausted by the endless heartache, she confessed that she had thought about ending it all. Death would be an escape from all this suffering. But the alcohol was too much for her, and she collapsed right in front of Jaina. From that moment on, Jaina's hatred toward her stepmother was set in stone. But that woman didn't stop there. She had the audacity to come to their home, shamelessly trying to win Jaina over. She claimed that she and Jaina's father were truly in love, and even revealed that she was pregnant with his child. But the worst part? Her father stood there silently, not even trying to deny it. Overwhelmed with rage, Jaina turned and walked away. She resented that woman for invading her home, fueling her hatred for people who didn't know their place. People like Hye-rin. The next day, Hye-rin received a message from Hae-in. With no other choice, she gathered her courage and went to find her father. When she told him she needed 8 million won, he froze. Even her younger brother, who received only 80,000 won a week for allowance, was stunned. "Are you crazy? Why don't you just go rob someone?" he scoffed. Holding the ruined dress in her trembling hands, Hye-rin couldn't hold back her tears any longer. She should never have gone to that party. Desperate to find a way to repay the debt, she searched endlessly online for part-time jobs. But no matter how many listings she scrolled through, there was nothing that could possibly cover such an amount. Meanwhile, Jaina and her friend watched from afar, satisfied. So-mang, who had heard about the incident at the party, confronted Jaina. "Enough is enough. Stop tormenting her," he warned. "There's already someone in the hospital because of all this." Jaina simply laughed. They had known each other for 18 years. She knew exactly how to get under his skin. "So-mang, don't be naive," she said. "Girls like her are only after your money and status." Meanwhile, Hye-rin was still struggling to come up with the 8 million won she owed. At school, Jaina made things even harder for her. She coldly told Hye-rin that she didn't want to see her around anymore. But she also offered her a deal. If Hye-rin dropped out within a week, Jaina would cover the cost of the ruined dress. For the first time, Hye-rin hesitated. Maybe leaving was her only option. Now, she was telling Hye-rin to be smart, pack her things, and disappear. The promise of financial relief was tempting, especially since she had already exhausted all other options. As the deadline loomed closer, Hye-rin grew desperate. That was when So-mang approached her again, pressing her for the truth. He needed to know who had attacked Harin. He couldn't wait any longer. But Hye-rin, to his shock, tried to use the information as a bargaining chip. She shamelessly asked to borrow money in exchange for the truth. So-mang was disgusted. He couldn't believe she would exploit a life-or-death situation like this. He scoffed, pointing out that she and Hye-rin might share a similar name, but their morals were nothing alike. Both of them had come from low-income backgrounds, yet Hye-rin had never once asked him for anything, let alone tried to make a deal out of someone's suffering. Hearing his words, Hye-rin finally gave up. She asked the driver to pull over and got out of the car, choosing to walk home alone. But just before she left, she couldn't help herself. She revealed the truth to So-mang. She had never intended to tell him, not just because of the confidentiality agreement she had signed with the chairman, but also because she had never actually seen the attacker's face. She only knew one thing: the culprit was a girl. Back at school, the short-haired girl dragged Hye-rin into the classroom, asking if she had found a way to pay for the dress. Hye-rin admitted that she had no choice but to accept Jaina's offer and drop out. Instead of pitying her, she led her to another part of the school, pointing toward a male student. She told Hye-rin to borrow money from him instead. This way, she could solve her immediate problem without having to quit school. Curious, Hye-rin glanced at the campus contribution rankings. The boy's name was on the list. That confirmed it. He was loaded. She knew how out of place she was in this world, but she had no other choice. After taking a deep breath, she entered the boy's private lounge. His name was Deming, and to her surprise, he immediately transferred 3 million won without hesitation. Hye-rin bowed in gratitude, promising that she would pay him back little by little. But Deming only smirked. If you take more than a week, I'll charge you an extra 2 million. He then offered her another option. She could work for him instead. Before she knew it, a camera was set up. Hye-rin stood there, wearing a lacy dress, feeling incredibly uncomfortable. Deming stared at her, clearly pleased. He ordered her to change poses over and over again. Even though she hated every second of it, she thought about what her father had always told her. Dignity doesn't put food on the table, so she endured it. Under Deming's direction, she posed for one set of photos after another. Just as the shoot was about to end, he pulled out a small yellow dress. Deming smirked as he held out the little yellow dress, telling Hye-rin that if she did one last photo shoot, he'd pay her even more. At first, Hye-rin hesitated, but just as she was about to head to the dressing room, Deming grabbed her arm. He leaned in and told her that plenty of girls had already taken off everything in this room. Whether she was willing or not didn't matter. After a moment of hesitation, she slowly unbuttoned her top. Meanwhile, the cunning woman approached Jae-na again, still pretending to be caring and kind. But Jae-na wasn't buying it. She had long since seen through the woman's mask. The woman soon dropped the act. Smirking, she revealed the truth. She was pregnant with a boy. That meant he would inherit Hanmyeong Group in the future, and she would become Jae-na's stepmother. She warned Jae-na to recognize her place. If she ever disrespected her again, she wouldn't tolerate it. At that moment, Jae-na was hit with a painful memory of her mother's suffering. Her head throbbed violently. Just then, Hye-rin arrived, interrupting before the woman could take Jae-na away. Hye-rin pulled Jae-na from the scene, but Jae-na quickly turned on her. She coldly warned Hye-rin not to think she had gained any leverage over her. No matter how miserable her life was, the sight of Hye-rin acting all noble and superior disgusted her. She told Hye-rin to get lost, but instead of leaving, Hye-rin reached into her bag, pulled out a stack of cash, and threw it at Jae-na. She was only here to pay for the dress. Hye-rin made it clear. After this, they would go their separate ways. She had nothing to lose and wasn't afraid of anything. She just wanted to finish school in peace. The next day, when Hye-rin arrived at school, Jae-na wasn't bothering her anymore. But just as relief settled in, she saw something that shattered her world. On a phone screen, her own image. A video of her taking off her clothes. Si-eun, noticing her distress, slipped her a note of comfort, checking if she was okay. That night, Hye-rin lay awake, staring at the note. Then a chilling realization hit her. The handwriting looked eerily similar to the mysterious note she had received at the mall. Meanwhile, Si-eun had arrived at Haren's hospital room. She gazed at the unconscious girl for a long moment before stepping out, pulling out her phone. On the screen was the leaked video of Hye-rin. Haren was no saint, but the true mastermind. She had never forgotten the day Jae-na slapped her in public. The humiliation burned inside her, turning into a grudge she refused to let go of. She had once thought they were friends. Jae-na had once smiled and accepted her kindness, but now she was asking why. Why had Jae-na turned on her? Jae-na, unfazed, simply asked if Si-eun remembered what she had said when they were kids. Back then, Si-eun had been the one to say, "Only people of the same level can be friends." Jae-na coldly told Si-eun that a bankrupt girl like her wasn't even worthy of being her friend. Si-eun's eyes filled with tears, but as she cried, a twisted smile slowly crept across her face. Jae-na found herself the target of scorn from her classmates because of her father's affair with a teacher. Realizing that Si-eun held a grudge against her and suspecting that she was behind the recent video scandal involving Hye-rin, Jae-na decided to confront her. She warned Si-eun to stay out of her sight and, more importantly, to stay away from Hye-rin. With that, Jae-na turned and walked away. At the same time, Hye-rin was desperately searching for any trace of her leaked video. But no matter how hard she searched, she found nothing. Then Si-eun walked in. Hye-rin turned on her immediately, demanding to know why she had done this. But Si-eun remained unfazed. At that moment, the truth became clear. Everything that had happened, every twisted turn of events, was orchestrated by Si-eun. Furious, Hye-rin called her a psychopath and accused her of committing a crime. But Si-eun only laughed, claiming that the real criminal was Hye-rin. She insisted that even if the school director hadn't explicitly said so, what Hye-rin had done made her an accomplice to a murder. Hye-rin denied it immediately. She argued that she had only passed by that night and hadn't actually seen the killer's face. There was no way she could be considered an accomplice. At those words, Si-eun's expression changed in an instant. She ordered Hye-rin to falsely accuse Jae-na of being the one who killed Ha-rin. When Hye-rin refused, knowing full well that Jae-na wasn't the murderer, Si-eun smirked and threatened to release the full video of her undressing. That was her real goal all along, to use Hye-rin's testimony to destroy Jae-na's reputation beyond repair. Mocking Hye-rin for her naivety, Si-eun sneered, "You saw someone jump from a building, and you still chose to transfer here?" Then she gave Hye-rin an ultimatum. She had 7 days to comply. Left alone, Hye-rin broke down in tears. Staring at the desperate search efforts for a witness to the incident, regret washed over her. She should have never pretended to know nothing. She should have never transferred to this school. Now she was trapped in a nightmare with no way out. Jae-na happened to pass by and saw Hye-rin in distress. For the first time, she showed concern for her. When Hye-rin mentioned that she and Si-eun were alike, Jae-na scoffed, saying that someone like Si-eun wasn't worth caring about. She then revealed that Si-eun had once threatened her on the rooftop. Si-eun had also tried to get involved with Jae-na's close friend's boyfriend. She secretly recorded a video and sent it to the man, ensuring that he would do whatever she asked. However, in doing so, she unknowingly pushed herself toward her own downfall. Hye-rin contacted So-mang, and together they searched the lounge for Deming's USB backup. Once they found it, Deming was captured and forced to delete all copies of the video from his cloud storage. However, even after erasing all traces from Deming's devices, Si-eun still had a copy on her phone. That same day, Jae-na's close friend was set to be engaged to her boyfriend's. Jae-na already believed he wasn't good enough for her. Right at the engagement party, she publicly exposed Si-eun and her friend's boyfriend affair. Jae-na thought she was saving her friend from a terrible marriage. But to her shock, her friend already knew about the affair. Instead of being grateful, she was enraged that Jae-na had ruined what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. The engagement party ended in chaos, and Hye-rin took Jae-na home, showing her a crucial piece of evidence. Ha-rin had given her a diamond necklace before she fell. Jae-na immediately recognized the necklace, and both she and Hye-rin realized the real killer was Jae-na's close friend. On the night of the incident, Jae-na's close friend had overheard Ha-rin blackmailing her boyfriend. The two women confronted each other on the rooftop, and in a fit of rage, Jae-na's close friend pushed Ha-rin off. But before falling, Ha-rin managed to yank off Jae-na's close friend's necklace as proof. On the night, Si-eun called Hye-rin and told her she was about to release the video. Desperate, Hye-rin pleaded with her, but before she could say anything more, Si-eun suddenly fell from the rooftop. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Ha-rin, who had been in a coma all this time, suddenly opened her eyes. But Jae-na no longer cared about any of it. Her only focus was securing her future. She was willing to do whatever it took, even calling her father's mistress Mom if it meant getting what she wanted. She knew that as long as she stayed patient, once her stepmother's child grew up, she would position herself as the most capable heir to the family fortune. The important thing is that the series ended here. There will definitely be a second part, but who do you think pushed the new girl? Tell me in the comments, and tell me who is the character who provoked you the most.